Now, my next story is going to be, yes, Jack and the Haunted House. Okay, once upon a time, there was a boy named Jack, and he lived with his mom. And Jack and his mom were very poor. And Jack's mom could no longer pay the mortgage. She had taken out one of those adjustable rate subprime mortgages, you know, and it came due and she couldn't pay it. So she decided it was time for Jack to go out and seek his fortune. But Mom said, "Jack, do you think I'm old enough?" "You're 21, Jack. I think you're old enough. Go out and seek your fortune." And she closed the door and she locked it and she bolted it. Jack's mom had all but given up that he was going to go to medical school. So Jack went down the road to seek his fortune. And as he was walking down the road, he sought it high and he sought it low. He looked hither, he looked yon. He looked up and he looked down. He looked inside out and upside down. He looked far and wide. He looked back and forth, and he couldn't find his fortune. And it started to get dark, and he decided he needed to find a place to sleep. Well, as he's walking down the road, who should be coming toward him but a perfect stranger? Now, not many people are perfect, but this stranger was a perfect stranger. Jack had never met him before. Never even got an email from him. And Jack told the stranger that he was out to seek his fortune, and he was out to find a place to sleep. And the stranger said, "Well, I know where you can find both of those things, your fortune and a place to sleep." "Where?" said Jack. "In that house yonder, over there on that hill." And Jack said, "You mean that black house with the cobwebs in the window and the shutters that are broken and the bats screeching around the belfry and the cat on the fence and the wind and the owls hooting?" "Yes," said the stranger. "That house, and here it is, the haunted house." And the stranger said, "In that house, there is a fortune." And Jack said, "Well, how come nobody ever found it before?" And the stranger said, "That's because the house is haunted by a skeleton." Now, I've got to get the skeleton. And here he is. Here's the skeleton that haunted that house, okay? So Jack said, "A skeleton and a fortune, a skeleton and a fortune." Jack decided he was more scared of being poor than he was of the skeleton. So he decided he was going to go up on that hill and he was going to seek his fortune in that house. "Don't anybody stop me," he said. "Don't anybody stop me." He looked at the perfect stranger, but the perfect stranger wasn't stopping him. I said, "Don't anybody stop me." "Don't look at me," said the perfect stranger. So Jack climbed up the hill and he knocked at the door. Nobody answered. "Oh, well," said Jack, "nobody's home. I'll come back another day." But the door all of a sudden creaked open. And a smell wafted out of the door, right under Jack's nose. What was that smell? Yes, he recognized it. It was the unmistakable smell of baked beans. Oh, and Jack was so hungry. So he stuck his head inside the door. Oh, that smells so good. He stuck his whole self inside the door when all of a sudden the door closed, click, and it was locked. He couldn't get out. He was trapped. There was only one way to go, and that was forward. The house was pitch black, except for a light coming from another room at the other end of the hall. And he followed the light into the room. And when he got into the room, there was a fire going in the fireplace. And on top of the fire was a pot of simmering baked beans. And there was a table. And the table was set with a bowl and a spoon, as if someone was expecting him. But who could be expecting him? The skeleton? Jack thought, gee, I wouldn't like that skeleton to join me when I'm sitting down eating my beans. That might cause me to lose my appetite and my beans. So Jack decided that he was going to go look for the skeleton before the skeleton came looking for him. So he went looking for the skeleton, and where do you think he looked? Where would you go looking for a skeleton If you were in a house. In the closets, right. That's where people keep their skeletons. You ever heard of skeletons in the closet? Yeah, that's where people keep their skeletons. They keep them in the closets. So he opened up all the closets, every one he could find, and there were no skeletons in any of the closets. So he decided he was safe. So he went over to the chimney, and he was just about to ladle out some baked beans when all of a sudden he heard such a racket coming down that chimney. Clickety-clack, bam, boom, clash, crash, slam, bam, crack, clack, clickety-crack, bing, bong, ding, dong. Oh, what a ruckus, what a rumpus. And down came 2 skeleton feet. 2 skeleton feet. They landed in the fire, and then they hopped out and hot-footed it around the room. But the skeleton feet were not attached to the rest of the skeleton. They didn't have a leg to stand on. They were footloose and fancy-free. Finally, they parked themselves in front of a rocking chair, kicked up their heels, and they waited for the rest of the skeleton to come down that chimney. So Jack called up the chimney, "Hey, shake a leg up there." And down came clickety-clack, slam, bam, bing, bong, ding, dong, crack, smack. Oh, what a ruckus, what a rumpus. And down came the left leg. More cling, clang, bing, dong, bing, bong, and down came the second leg. So Jack took the 2 legs and he attached them to the feet. And then the feet and the legs started dancing around the room to the tune of, "I ain't got nobody." And Jack thought to himself, everybody needs somebody sometime. And he called up the chimney, "Hey, somebody up there. Anybody up there?" And then more noise, clash, bam, ding dong, bing bong, clickety clack, crack smack. Down came a hip bone, a backbone, a shoulder bone, and some prime ribs. They formed themselves into a body, and a skeleton started pulling himself together. The leg bone connected to the hip bone connected to the backbone connected to the shoulder bone. Now, he was almost all together, except he didn't have any what? Arms. So he was completely unarmed.